everyone. How's everybody doing this evening? Welcome to the Ruby Pearl Glamper True Crime Podcast. My name is Amy. Welcome to my show. Hope everyone is having a wonderful evening. Hope you're not out drinking and driving this holiday weekend like my ex-sister-in-law was, and had to go be rescued by my daughter because they had checkpoints set up everywhere. So I spoke with them earlier, and she was taking her to back to get her car. So tonight I'm going to talk about the death of Olivia Jane Ward, otherwise known as Janie Ward. She was a 16-year-old high school student from Marshall, Arkansas, who went to a party at a cabin way outside of town and died. And the recent case of Kiely Rodni, when it first broke, reminded me of Janie's case. And I advocated for Janie's case back years ago with a group called Our War. We also did a lot of advocating for the West Memphis 3. And we advocated for justice for Janie. And when I heard about Kiely's case, it immediately took me back to Janie's case. Several similarities, and, both girls 16 years old. They attend a party where there's drinking and drugs, and, Janie dies from allegedly falling off of a 9-inch high porch, and Kiely goes missing and is eventually found by the volunteer group Adventures with Purpose. She was found in the hatchback of her car in Prosser Lake Reservoir, where the party was being held. And so I haven't covered the Kiely Rodni case here on my channel. I have actually been following the case over on Bullhorn Betty's channel. And I've been going on panel and stuff and whatnot, participating with her and discussing the case. So I haven't had a chance, I haven't actually covered Kiely's case here on my channel. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Kiely's case and, just my thoughts on it and how I feel about it. And then get into telling you all about Janie's case. Because if you think Kiely Rodni's case is controversial and shady, you haven't heard nothing yet. So, like I said, I've been, discussing this case over on Bullhorn Betty's channel. And, this case is still in the speculating stages. And, this case is still in the speculating stages because we have not gotten her autopsy report or her toxicology report back yet. All we know is that she was found by Adventures with Purpose in Prosser Lake Reservoir in the hatchback of her 2013 CRV. The car was in about 15 feet of water. It had flipped upside down. The passenger side front window was busted out, and the driver's side rear window was rolled about halfway down. Now, how did Kiely end up dead in this lake in the back of her car, which was found to be in neutral? Did she accidentally roll off into the lake? Did someone drive her off into the lake? You know, what happened out there the night that Kiely died? We can't say she's missing anymore because she's not missing. So one of the things that has come up is this eyewitness from a roadside assistance guy who claims he went to another part of the lake, just not far from where her car was found, and allegedly gave her a battery jump or something of that nature, and said that Kiely was with a guy, and he described the guy, but he never actually says, yes, it was Kiely's car. Yes, it was a silver 2013 CRV. He allegedly has this on dash cam video or whatever from, I guess, his tow truck or whatever. But as far as we know, unless law enforcement has those videos, they have yet to be produced. The company which this boy Nick works for told the police that they would have to obtain a search warrant, which I found to be pretty shitty in my opinion, because I've never heard of tow truck driver client confidentiality. You know, we have at the time had a missing 16-year-old girl. If you've got some kind of evidence in this case, by all means, turn it over. It's just a lousy roadside assistance call. We're not talking about doctors or therapists or whatever, where you have HIPAA laws. So anyway, they did find her. They did eventually find her in Prosser Lake Reservoir. And her friends who left her at this party have been really shady about the whole incident. And, it's just, as of right now, we like I said, we still don't know how Kiely died. It has been about 2 weeks since Adventures with Purpose found her, and you would think that they would have at least the autopsy results back right now, but apparently they don't, or if they do, they're keeping it hush-hush, because we're most likely looking at a murder investigation. This went from a missing person to a criminal investigation, and I think now that it's pretty safe to say we're looking at a homicide investigation. I don't, the girl was found in the back end of her car, and so I don't think she accidentally rolled herself off into the lake. And something we've discussed over on Bullhorn Betty's channel is that, we think that there may have been other people in the car. and that was why the window was busted out and that these people got out. I'm not sold on anyone being in the car when it went into the water, because the driver's side window was not rolled down. It was not tampered with or anything like that. And you know, you'd have to be pretty small to swim out of a window that is rolled halfway down. Haven't been able to determine if the passenger side window that was busted out, whether that was caused by the water going, or excuse me, the car going into the lake and flipping upside down, whether someone busted the window out from the outside, or whether someone, you know, was in the car and possibly, you know, kicked the window out. That's something that the crime scene unit would be able to determine. When glass breaks, it the cracks, it they can determine whether or not the window was busted out from the outside or from the inside. So, but you know, when this case broke, it just reminded me so much of Janie Ward's case. And I'm going to, excuse me, I'm going to get into telling you about Janie Ward's case. She was a 16-year-old teenager in the 11th grade at Marshall High School. She didn't normally run with the in crowd. She had previous problems in the previous weeks with some of the cheerleaders, and one of the cheerleaders that she had a problem with is actually one of the girls who, of the three witnesses, and she was also accused of being the one who hit Janie and caused her to fall and allegedly fall. And she finally had to leave the small town of Marshall because of so many, you know, the rumors and the stares and stuff. But we'll get into that in a minute. But anyway, these kids at this party, after Janie allegedly fell, they put her into the back of a pickup truck and drove her 30 miles into the town square. They ended up in a bank parking lot, and which across the street was, I guess, the hospital or whatever. But anyway, they chose to pull into this bank parking lot. There was a whole group of teenagers, and finally got some help. Hey, Annabella, how are you? You're the only one joining me tonight, but that's okay. I'm glad to have you. So they go and they get, I believe it was a nurse or someone, and to come out to the truck, and Janie was wet. She was dirty. She had sand. Oh yeah, I've kind of been wondering where you've been. I haven't seen you in a while. But Janie was wet. She was dirty. She had sand inside her clothes, in between her jeans and her underwear, in between her bra. She had sticks, twigs, and leaves stuck to her. I mean, she was a mess. And she was in the back of this dude's pickup truck. Rather than, they allegedly had no phone service at the cabin where this party was being held. However, what they did do was clean up the party, got rid of all the booze and liquor, and clean the whole place up. And this a group of some of the kids drove Janie into town. Well, they determined that she had died, and her body was at the Marshall funeral home in Marshall, Arkansas. And her father, Ron Ward, came to the funeral home to identify her body. And she had on a blue pinstripe button-up shirt. Now, if you lived through the 80s, you all had a blue pinstripe Oxford shirt. I had one. Nicole had one. I mean, everybody who was anybody had a blue pinstripe Oxford shirt and jeans. And Ron, her father, went to button one of the buttons up on her shirt and felt that her clothes were wet. So, which he thought, was odd. So her body spent the night at the funeral home in Marshall, Arkansas. When she arrived the following day at the Arkansas Medical Examiner's Office, the state crime lab, she was clean. She was dressed in completely different clothes. She had on a black t-shirt with a skull on it, something that her mother and father said she would have never worn. So here's your first red flag. Well, not the first red flag, but the first of many controversial situations in this case. She arrives at the medical examiner's office dressed clean and dressed in completely different clothes. Her autopsy was performed by the former medical examiner of Arkansas, Fahmy Malek. Now, this is where I got to stop and give you a little bit of backstory on Fahmy Malek and his controversial time at the Arkansas Medical Examiner's Office. Fahmy Malek is the medical examiner who also performed the autopsies on my friends Kevin Ives and Don Henry, also known as the Boys on the Tracks, who were murdered in Saline County, Arkansas. And he wanted to rule their deaths a double suicide. And our sheriff at the time, Jim Steed, said, no, the parents are not going to buy that. So he ruled that Kevin and Don had smoked 22 marijuana cigarettes, laid down on the tracks next to each other across the railroad tracks, laid Don's gun in between them, covered themselves up with a tarp, and went to sleep like they were going to bed. Totally asinine. So he ruled their deaths an accident. And this didn't sit well with anybody either. My light just went off. This is not the light I normally use. So anyway, yeah, he used urine test to test blood, and he just, and, yeah, it was just a big old mess. So the Ives and Henry families went to gain a second opinion and had Kevin and Don exhumed. And Dr. Joseph Burton in Atlanta, Georgia, performed the second autopsies on them and determined that Don had been stabbed in the back, and Kevin had received a blow to the face from the butt of a gun. However, Fami Malek saw, trigger warning, had sawed Kevin's jawbone in so many different directions that he had a hard time being able to determine where the initial blow to Kevin's face, where he received the initial blow. So Linda Ives formed the group Vomit, Victims of Malek's Incredible Testimony, which Ron and Mona Ward, Janie's parents, were a part of. They uncovered that Fami Malek had botched and lied and fabricated evidence and all sorts of crazy mess in over 20 cases. One of the cases, he was James Dewey Milam, and he determined that James Dewey Milam had died from an ulcer. However, trigger warning, James Dewey Milam's head had been decapitated, and Fami Malek determined that the family dog had chewed his head off and regurgitated it, and that he tested the dog's vomit and found brain matter and whatnot. Well, guess what? James Dewey Milam's head was found intact somewhere else, and therefore the dog didn't do it. So, you know, he just, he has made so many controversial rulings. One guy, he determined that he had taken his own life with a Colt, I believe a Colt 45 handgun. He had a pattern that went angled upward, and he had been shot 5 times. You cannot shoot yourself 5 times with a Colt 45. It's just impossible. So, also, and here's where the conspiracy comes into play. Fami Malek had also did a ruling in a case involving Virginia Kiely. It was the death of Susie Deer. Virginia Kiely is none other than Bill Clinton's mother. Yes, she was a nurse, and she was excuse me, she was actually investigated twice for malpractice. Anyway, so, but Bill Clinton claims that he never had any personal dealings with Fami Malek. Lie. Anyway, Fami Malek was the one who performed the first autopsy on Janie, and he determined that she died from a broken neck. Let's see, similar to, okay, he determined that she broke her neck because her neck head went so far forward that it detached from her spinal cord, which was consistent with the fall she allegedly took. She fell backwards off of a 9-inch porch. So he determined that she her head went so far forward that it detached from her spinal cord. However, Janie also had a black eye. She had a broken nose. She had bruises around her neck. And like I said, she was originally dirty and wet and sandy and had twigs and leaves all stuck to her and whatnot. But as I said, she arrived at the medical examiner's clean in different clothes. Her clothes have never been found. They were lost. Her original x-ray of her neck was gone, and there was a duplicate x-ray. They eventually come up with a duplicate x-ray, and there is like a blur where her injury was alleged to have happened on her neck. But so they never did any kind of forensic testing on her clothes or anything like that. Like I said, evidence lost. Her clothes that she had on that night at the party and that night when her father ID'd her body there at the funeral home, they're gone. So later on, the family had her. Hi, Shorty Small, how are you? I am talking about the death of Olivia Jane Ward in Marshall, Arkansas, and because the recent case of Kiely Rodni has took me back to her case, and I've been discussing the similarities, in their cases. Two 16-year-old girls who attend a party and they both end up dead. I'm doing all right. It's this weather here in Arkansas has just been kind of a mess. It pours down rain and then it's steaming hot, and it's just a mess. So the second autopsy, they get a guy named Dr. Harry Bonnell out of San Diego, California, and he performs a second performs. Who are we? We're talking about Olivia Jane Ward. She died in 1989 in Marshall, Arkansas, at a party where there was underage drinking and drugs and whatnot. And with the recent case of Kiely Rodni, there's a lot of similarities and a lot of shady and controversial things surrounding both cases. And so I'm just discussing, well, I've already talked a little bit about Kiely's case, and now I'm telling you all about Janie's case, and you'll see the similarities. in both cases. You have two 16-year-old girls who went to a party, and both of them end up dead. But Dr. Harry Bonnell from San Diego, California, the family had Janie's body exhumed and he determined that her neck injury was not because her head snapped forward, but that her head snapped back, similar to whiplash or a hangman's injury, you know, if someone's been hung, or received a blow to the back of her neck, a hard blow. And, you know, he determined that, you know, this case, that her death was definitely a homicide. So now you have two different determinations by two different medical examiners. Well, Ron and Mona Ward filed a lawsuit to have Janie's death certificate changed from undetermined to homicide. Well, at that time, we had Dr. Kokas as our medical examiner. And he, of course, agreed with Fami Malik's ruling. Now, in between Fami Malik and Dr. Kokas, we had medical examiner Dr. Frank Peretti. Dr. Frank Peretti is well known for his controversial rulings in the West Memphis 3 case, and he is the one who said that the three little boys in West Memphis, Christopher Byers, Stevie Branch, and Michael Moore, who were alleged to have been murdered by Damian Eccles, Jason Baldwin, and Jesse Miss Kelly, that they killed these boys with this hunting knife that they found in the lake behind Jason Baldwin's house. But later on, several experts determined that was not true, and that that these injuries were caused from animal predation and turtles and whatnot. So we have not had good luck with medical examiners here in Arkansas. We've had a bunch of bozos, in my opinion, in that office. But Dr. Kokas came in after Frank Peretti, and he called Dr. Harry Bonnell an outright liar, and of course agreed with Fami Malik's ruling. And Dr. Harry Bonnell said, man, y'all are covering something up. That this girl was murdered. This girl received some type of blow to the head or to her neck. And so there was a big controversy about it. And then 18 years later, they had they exhumed Janie's body for the second time and had a third autopsy done by a guy named Dr. John Pless. And they performed a 3D CAT scan on her neck at, I believe it was University Hospital in Little Rock. And this bozo determined that she didn't receive any kind of a neck injury. He determined that she choked on something and could not breathe, could not talk, and due to lack of oxygen is when she fainted or fell and lost consciousness and fell backwards. And this ruling was more asinine than Fami Malik's ruling, because I mean, according to the 3 eyewitnesses who said they saw Janie when she fell, no one said anything that she was eating potato chips or sucking on some candy or chomping on a burger or nothing. And if she had choked on something, it seems to me that they would have found something in her stomach contents or something stuck in her throat. But he said that there were tiny hemorrhages in the back of her throat that made him determine that she choked to death on something and then fell backwards off the porch, but did not receive any type of neck injuries. So you now have 3 different rulings by 3 different medical examiners in this poor girl's case. Her case, as of today, is still undetermined. Almost 30 years later, or a little over 30 years. She died in 1989, so 32 years, I believe. We still don't know what happened to Janie Ward. And her father, Ron Ward, has since passed away. And, it's, the 3 eyewitnesses who claim that they saw Janie fall, one of them was the quarterback, the high school quarterback. One of them was a cheerleader and a beauty queen, and her dad was a judge. The other eyewitness in the case is the one who brought the booze and stuff to the party. He was an ex-convict. So, and it was alleged that now Janie's mother, Mona, spoke about Janie having problems in the previous week with Stephanie, this cheerleader. And it is alleged and rumored that they had a fight at this party. There was a creek nearby the cabin, and so you decide for yourself and figure out how Janie ended up with sand in her bra and her jeans and leaves and twigs and dirt and mud, and how she ended up soaking wet. She didn't get soaking wet by falling off a porch onto the dry ground. So, how did she end up wet? How did she, But this case, has been so controversial, as I said, and we still have no definitive answers on exactly how Janie died and what really happened that night. All the witnesses say is that, they're just all standing around and boom, Janie falls off the porch. But Stephanie, the cheerleader, is the one that the finger has been pointed at as being the one who killed her. And like I said, they threw this poor girl in the back of a pickup truck. Didn't even put her inside or in anybody's car or anything. Threw her in the back of a pickup truck. Like a sack of Quikrete or some lumber. And drove her 30 miles into town. Didn't even drive her actually to the hospital. They drove her into the town square, into the bank parking lot, and ran across the street to get help. In the meantime, cleaned up the party. Yeah, you have Stephanie and Sammy. And, just like Stephanie, I think that, there's something very shady going on in Kiely's case with Sammy. She's hiding something. She's not telling the truth. And, I hope that, one of the things that we discussed over on Betty's channel was how these parents of these kids who were at this party at Prosser Lake, the campground, were told to keep their mouths shut, that their parents were telling them to keep quiet and whatnot. And, 200 people at this party, and 200-300 people at this party, and they all scatter at the exact time that Kiely's phone went dead and pinged right next to the water and then went dead. And they, eyewitness testimony says everybody scattered. Well, there was only about 40 kids at this party in Marshall, Arkansas, and only 3 people witnessed Janie's fall. And they cleaned up the party, got rid of all the booze and stuff, and then threw her in a pickup truck and drove her into town. I don't know anything about that girl, Shorty Small, that Zanime girl. I don't know anything about her, but Ryan Upchurch seems to find her something shady about her. Something very shady about her. And speaking of Ryan Upchurch, I spoke with him this morning on Bullhorn Betty's channel. And at first, I was extremely angry with him because, he was making all these wild accusations. And I'm like, has he lost his damn mind? Like, sure, this girl is real. I mean, this happened. But after listening to Ryan this morning and talking to him and everything, I think what the bigger picture with Ryan Upchurch's skepticism in the Kiely Rodni case is that there is so much shady shit surrounding her case and stuff that he has uncovered that people don't match up, their names don't match up, that there's just so much shadiness in her case that, you don't know what to believe. I believe she did too, Shorty Small. I firmly believe she did. I think she went out there looking to see if there was any evidence visible, or her car was visible, or anything like that, to see if they, if she would be spotted or whatever, or her car would, like, be seen from the bank, or from, drone area. And one of the things that Betty brought up was that on August the 7th, someone found aerial photos taken, satellite photos, and there was one taken on August the 4th, and then one taken on August the 7th. They're not taken every day, they're taken every, like, few days. And on August the 4th, there's nothing there. But on August the 7th, you can see a shadow right where her car was found, from this aerial satellite shot. Now, I don't ask me who found those photos. She said who had found them, but I don't. Wait a minute. I think it was Stony Stone, who found the pictures, but don't quote me on that. But irregardless, this whole tow truck driver saying that he saw Kiely and some guy, and that he went and serviced her car and whatnot. I find his testimony very shady. I don't believe it was Kiely. I think it was Sammy, because she does look a lot like Kiely. I mean, she's blonde, she's whatnot. But anyway, I don't know what happened out there with Kiely, the same as I don't know what happened that night, September the 9th of 1989, to Janie Ward. But what I do know, and what I do believe wholeheartedly, is that both of them were murdered. And someone needs to start talking, and someone needs to start telling the truth. Because, here we are almost 33 years later. September the 9th will be 33 years since Janie died. And she got no justice. And we still, as I said, don't know exactly what happened to her that night and how she died. That is a very, very strong possibility. And that's probably the number one what's the word I'm looking for? Number one thought in my head. But we won't know until we get her autopsy back. The autopsy is what's going to break the case. And they'll determine whether or not she was still alive when she went into that water. And that will open up, as I said, a whole new can of worms. I think that they should already have her autopsy back. But, because it's been 2 weeks since Adventures with Purpose found her. And, normally we have at least a manner of death or cause of death, within a week. Did in Gabby's case. And, did in Janie's case. But, when it went from a missing person to a criminal investigation, and now I'm I feel confident in saying that we've got a homicide investigation now. The police just haven't announced it. And that's understandable. That's understandable that they would keep everything close to the vest because they are still investigating. They are still, after the arrest. And, they're still going to have to interview people, hope that maybe some more witnesses come forward, look for inconsistencies in statements and, and whatnot. And toxicology takes 4 to 6 weeks. So they may also wait for her toxicology to come back before they release everything. That's a strong possibility. Because even if she had died before she went into the water, they're going to want to determine how she died. She could have died of alcohol poisoning. She could have died from fentanyl overdose. There's been a lot of talk about these fentanyl pills and whatnot. And there was allegedly cocaine at the party, which could have been laced. There's a number of possibilities. She could have died from a broken neck too. I mean, hey, we don't know. All we know is that she was found in the trunk of her car, in the back of her car, upside down in a lake reservoir. She could have died from a subdural hematoma. We don't know. So I think that, you think she flew the coop? Like I said, I don't know anything about this Zanime. I just know what I've heard talked about her from Ryan Upchurch. So, but he seems to find her. Yeah, that but they have not released the preliminary autopsy yet. Lone. To my knowledge, they haven't. Yeah, and Sammy's gone too. Her family took her out of town. See, I find that all extremely shady because, I have taught my kids to do the right thing. And there have been instances, especially with my youngest daughter, where we have gone to the police and done the right thing. Yeah, they're withholding it. But are they withholding it because the parents want it withheld, or are they withholding it because until they're through investigating, why are they withholding it? I'm thinking that it's either because the parents have requested it, or that they're looking for a murderer. They're looking for who did this, who put her car in that lake, because she didn't put it in there by herself. Yeah, criminal investigation. But it's 2 young girls, 2 16-year-old girls who had their whole lives ahead of them, were taken down in an instant from negligence. Oh, thank you. I am. Okay, I'm a girl of the 70s, and I am all about some disco. I have disco lights all through my Glamper. I actually have the one above me turned off, but I have one over there, and then I have two in the, or no, yeah, two in the front of my Glamper. But yeah, I'm all about some disco. I'll turn all the lights off in here and have nothing but the disco lights on. And I will turn on the Bee Gees, and I will turn on some funk and Diana Ross, you know, and the Gap Band, and my old fat ass will be in here just a boogieing. I tend to not believe that I am 52 years old. I'll never believe. I'll always be 12. You know, I'll always be that girl at the skating rink. You know, dancing under the big disco ball and disco lights. The so-called friendly fight is the main focus of the investigation. Plus, when Kiely's car entered the water. Yeah, the fight. And, you know, there's another similarity in Kiely and Janie's case is the alleged fight. Kiely was alleged to have fought with someone. Janie was alleged to have fought with someone. So, you know, it's just drinking, you know, and I'm not a saint, y'all. I have been prayed to the porcelain god more than once. Are you asking if Janie had bruises or did Kiely have bruises? I don't know whether Kiely had any kind of bruises or not. They have not released anything about her autopsy, but Janie did have bruises. She had bruises around her neck. She had a black eye. Her nose was broke, which none of that was put in Fami Malek's original autopsy report. Kiely, I don't have any idea. They have not released anything about the condition of her body or her cause or manner of death or anything as of yet. So we don't know. But it'll be very interesting to find out, of course, you know, whether she has any injuries whatsoever to her body, whether it be scratches or with the knees. Oh, really? Are you talking about the interview with her and Kiely's ex-boyfriend, Jagger? I'll have to go back and watch that. I didn't notice it. Huh. Wow. Yeah, I'm going to have to go back and watch those interviews with Sammy. She's been shady from the very beginning, and to my understanding, her and Kiely hadn't really been friends that long. So, you know, I don't know, but I suspect I suspect a boy is involved. Let's just say that. I suspect that there's a lover's triangle that happened. I don't know. We'll just have to see. I don't know why this light keeps going off. But yeah, it'll all be, very, very, very interesting to see how Kiely's case unfolds. And you know, I don't know that we'll ever know what truly happened to Janie Ward that night. But for Crime, Lies, and Light. Oh, okay. Yeah, I used to be in their chat when I first came to YouTube, and then I started my own channel and just kind of got busy with my own channel and whatnot, and have been, covering my own cases. Everybody, different creators, the ones who actually report on true crime cases. I'm not talking about all these drama channels, but we all cover different cases. And I also have a channel over on Spotify. That's where I started. And I've covered a lot of the trials and stuff, and cases this past year and whatnot. Gabby Petito, Summer Wells, Kyle Rittenhouse, Ahmaud Arbery, Astro World, Kim Potter, several cases and several trials over on my Spotify channel. And then I came over to YouTube, to expand my audience and whatnot. And but I do, different things here on my channel. And I talk about old cases, and I talk about new cases, and just kind of do my own thing here. So but I hope y'all will subscribe and of course come back. I have enjoyed you here in my chat. Oh, y'all have to pardon me. I have terrible sciatica, so it's hard for me to sit still for very long without fidgeting around like a 3-year-old. You mod for lip lock. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm familiar with them. I haven't been on their channels in a while. A while back, there were some weird alliances made. Strange alliances. And people becoming friends with their enemies and frenemies and different things. And there were several creators that I actually stopped following because I don't trust anyone that wants to sell their soul to Benny Keys and get involved with him. That's somebody I would never, ever get involved with. But, I just kind of hang here in my Glamper and report on, the cases that I want to report on. And they're not, necessarily the other cases that everybody else is reporting on. I think it's important for, oh, okay. Well, thank you. Well, I'm sure glad you came in. I didn't announce, I announced this about 45 minutes early, because I didn't know if I was actually going to be able to go live tonight, because it was possibly fixing to storm here in Arkansas again. And so I didn't know how well my internet was going to hang in there. So I wasn't really for sure whether I was gonna go live tonight or not. I'd had this planned and wanted to do it, and Yesterday I spent all day in town doing my shopping and whatnot. And what do you want, puppy? Smokey. And so I was just plumb wore out last night. And then, like I said, I didn't know if I was going to be able to go live today or this evening because I thought it was going to storm. But luckily it hasn't. It's just hot and muggy as hell. But I want to take a minute to acknowledge Adventures with Purpose. What these guys do is nothing short of amazing. And, you know, there's been some controversy surrounding them and, you know, what they, you know, their involvement in these cases. But you know what? Law enforcement should not be intimidated by these guys. They should welcome these guys with open arms. You know, it's not like in Kiely's case, you know, whereas with Hawkins County and Ronnie Lawson and Summers' case, you know, we hadn't got shit out of him. But I do feel that the police in Rodni's case have definitely done whatever they had to do, you know, to try and find her and investigate her case, unlike Ronnie Lawson, who turned Adventures with Purpose away. So I don't think that, you know, law enforcement should be intimidated by these guys. I don't think anybody should say, well, why didn't the cops find Kiely? Why don't y'all have the equipment? You know, why? You know, that equipment cost a lot of money. And what people don't realize that these police departments and sheriff's departments are on a budget. They have so much money that they get a year, and they have to budget that money. And, you know, one of the things that I learned from our former police chief is when he was police chief, he applied for several grants and stuff to get new equipment and updated computers and form certain thing and do certain things and get a new van. And he did a lot of stuff. I have personal issues with him, but I mean, he did do a lot for our city. But you know, he applied for grants and stuff. But I think, you know, that's one of the things that, you know, unless you've been involved in your local politics, you don't realize is that, you know, these police agencies have a budget. And I mean, you know, they just don't get handed for free the latest equipment or the, you know, most updated computers and systems and whatnot. So, you know, I don't think that anyone should be intimidated by these guys. I mean, what these guys do, you know, is just beyond amazing. They have solved 24 cold cases since they got started, including Kiely's, which was an active case. Hers wasn't a cold case. You know, so otherwise these people might not have ever been found. So, I mean, state-of-the-art sonar equipment. Huh. You know, I don't know. I don't, you know, I don't know who has, you know, what kind of equipment or whatever. I mean, I just know that they allegedly, yeah, you know, they allegedly searched the reservoir and didn't find her car. And, you know, Adventures with Purpose came in and found it, and that's all I care about, is that she was found. I don't care who found her. I'm just happy that she was found, and that her case didn't go on like so many of these other cases that they have solved, where people have been missing for months and years upon years. So, I'm just thankful that she was found. And I mean, I have, like I said, unlike Hawkins County and Ronnie Lawson, I have commended Placer County and the FBI and all those who have been involved in Kiely's case, that they, yeah, that's true. That is true. That they worked hard, on her case, where, here we are over a year later and we still don't know where Summer Wells is. Well, like I said, what these guys do is beyond amazing. And, something that I've said, it takes more than one person to build a house. You have to have construction people, you have to have roofers, you have to have plumbers, you have to have electricians, you have to have people to lay the concrete. It takes more than one person to build a house. So therefore, it takes more than one cop, to solve a case. And they're, I think it's great that they welcomed AWP and allowed them to search, and that they found her. And I hope in the future that more police agencies will accept their help when there is a situation with someone missing and their car is also missing. And, that there's the possibility that they could be in a body of water somewhere. So, shout out to Adventures with Purpose. And I want to leave you guys with, sometimes I do a little singing on here. So I want to send this out to Adventures with Purpose. Little song by Alabama. I believe there are angels among us, sent down to us from somewhere up above. They come to you and me in our darkest hours, to show us how to live, to teach us how to give, to guide us with a light of love. They wear so many faces, show up in the strangest places, grace us with their mercy in our time of need. Oh, I believe there are angels among us, sent down to us from somewhere up above. They come to you and me in our darkest hours, to show us how to live, to teach us how to give, to guide us with a light of love. And that's what Adventures with Purpose is. They are angels among us. Guys, I'm going to close out this live, but I want to thank you all for joining me and participating in the chat. Like I said, please like, subscribe, and share, and tell your friends. And, if there's a case that you might like for me to cover and talk about. You can find me on Facebook. I have a page on Facebook called the Ruby Pearl Glamper. I'm also on Spotify under the Ruby Pearl Glamper True Crime Podcast, and here on YouTube. So I hope you all have a wonderful evening. Please be safe out there, and if you travel anywhere tomorrow for Memorial Day or Labor Day, which I always get them mixed up, tomorrow, just be safe and careful out there. And as always, please remember to be the change that you wish to see in this world. As Michael Jackson said, it starts with the man in the mirror. Peace out, everyone. Good night. Enjoyed you all. Thanks for coming in, Shorty Small and Lone Wolf. I sure appreciate y'all. Good night, everyone.